All right, well, today I'm going to kind of get into what you need to be tracking with your info product because a lot of the time people just track page views or applications or calls booked, and there's a lot more, especially a lot of metrics and variables that are behind, your page views. Like, yes, you have a number that shows 60 people went to your page, but why did those 60 people go? And that's the data that I'm talking about. You want to know the data that gives you the why to all of your numbers rather than just tracking straight quantitative data, which is just numbers essentially. And I'll also get into soon explaining qualitative data and quantitative data and how you can be tracking both and be using both to the best of your ability. Let's say your page views go down one day and you're like, fuck, I don't know why they're down. And you start changing all these variables and you start changing your subheadline and a bunch of shit on your page. You're kind of taking wild guesses and just, you're throwing a dart basically and hoping it lands somewhere. Where if you were tracking quantitative data, you could go in and see, okay, this is what's stopping me and this is why I'm getting, less page views now. So now you can go and change that and you're not just guessing anymore. You're actually building off of something that you already know because you have that qualitative data to back it and show for it. Not much else to go over, but I'll get into the video right now. All right, so first, before I get into actually, what you can use to track it and get a little bit more into the nitty gritty, I want to explain why businesses and highly successful info products use qualitative data. This comes from experience and also seeing what other businesses are doing in info products businesses. And essentially, it's just they track qualitative data, like I told you earlier, to see the why behind everything, but also for variable testing, for A/B testing. Think about it like this. What highly successful info product businesses are doing is whenever something goes wrong, rather than just changing one thing, like a blind guess, like I said earlier, they're going through and they're testing. And from what data they get from testing those different variables, they get patterns and they get certain, stimuli and different reasons and to just make it simple, they get different patterns that they can build off of going forward with, other products, other offers, other subheadlines, other variables to their page views, other applications, forms. Whenever you truly understand your audience and how they interact with your own info product and your business, you're always building off of what you know to work. You're building off of patterns that you've already seen work just through this quantitative or qualitative testing. A big thing too that, obviously these businesses are also using quantitative data. They're tracking the numbers and the applications and the calls booked. And I'm not saying that's not important, but it's not enough to actually get and, be highly successful with your business, in my opinion, because if you don't understand what your customers are doing on your page and you don't understand why things happen inside of your pages and you don't understand why stuff happens just in general with your business, then you're kind of shooting yourself in the foot at that point because the other guy's doing that and he knows, okay, this works and this didn't work, and he knows the reasons behind it. So now he knows going into making his next offer application, whatever it is, that he can use these good patterns and build off of what's already working. Another thing too is think of your business, or think more so of your info product business, as a funnel. Like a website funnel. And when you're tracking every action that goes on in that funnel, then you can start finding critical points and building off of those critical points when shit does go wrong. Numbers alone won't tell you that. Qualitative data will. Every single funnel has a section in it where a page viewer becomes a lead into your business through doing an application or whatever it is. And that's another point where, like I said, the critical points, you can go in and that's where you set up testing, because let's say you have a goal to get more leads or you have a goal to get more revenue. More leads is going to get you more revenue. So that is whenever you can use this qualitative, testing and this quantitative testing combined together to, track this critical point that you have. So you always know what's going on and you always understand, okay, this worked, this didn't work, I'm going to do this now going into next week. And then guess what? Your leads go up because you're building off of what you saw to work using qualitative data. So I'm getting a little ahead of myself. I will explain more of that about how to use quantitative and qualitative data into this video, but now I'm going to get into the actual differences, like the core differences behind what qualitative data is and what quantitative data is and what you can use to track qualitative data. All right, so what I've pulled up here is basically quantitative and qualitative data, what they are and how the best way to think of them whenever you're going into setting up data tracking or whenever you're thinking about, doing data analysis and seeing what worked and what didn't. So I'll start off with quantitative data. Think of this just as numbers. So this is page views, opt-ins, sign-ups, calls booked, and the revenue. I was getting ahead of myself. I thought I knew what it was. So this is just numbers. This is something that you can put essentially a defined number to. Page views, you can't, once you get 2 page views for the day, you can't go back down to 0 page views. Same thing with opt-ins, you know what I mean? These are just exact defined actions that are taking place inside of your funnel. That's the best way to think of it. So these are just numbers, and they have the what behind everything. So what page views did I get for the day? What opt-ins did I get for the day? What signups, what calls booked did I get? What revenue did I make? These are just the what's behind your funnel. These kind of give you the narrative and the overall performance of how things are going overall. So now for qualitative data, this is session recordings, A/B testing, heat maps, and any lead-to-lead user data. And what I mean by lead-to-lead user data is pretty much it is what is your lead doing? That's literally what the best way I can put it. It's what is your lead doing? Are they going on your website and immediately exiting out of it? Are they going to your website and clicking on, the button that's in the top right corner? Are they going on your page and clicking the CTA button that they first see? What are they actually doing? So that's what I mean by any lead-to-lead user data. So session recordings and A/B testing and heat maps, I will show you pretty soon with the actual softwares that I'm going to give you. They're all free, I'm pretty sure too, except for maybe one, but 2 of them are free. But the best way to think of qualitative data are variables. It's the why behind everything. So quantitative data gives you that narrative, the performance. What is the overall health of my business and my funnel? Well, a qualitative data gives you the variables and the why behind it. Okay, my funnel's being really shitty right now. My revenue's down by, $1,000 this week. What does the qualitative data say? Is it because, from looking at your session recordings, is it because users just, they're not clicking the CTA button anymore? They're not signing up to your free resource. What actually is it? And that's why qualitative data is so important. And one thing I see a lot happening is people set up, Google Analytics or these quantitative data tracking softwares, and they have the narrative behind everything. And I'm someone who used to do this also whenever I was, beginning and just starting out, and I didn't see the full scope of everything. It is good. It's good to know your overall performance. But when you don't have anything backing it and you don't have any reasoning behind it, whatever you want to say, that's whenever, it kind of becomes a bit of a problem, because when shit does go wrong or goes right, you don't understand why it's going wrong or right. You just have actual guesses. And in my opinion, it's always better to go off of something that's true by backed user data than just taking a guess or, a shot in the dark, essentially. So now to get into what are the actual softwares that you could use. The first one, and my personal favorite, is Microsoft Clarity. This essentially just has session recordings, heat maps. It has a little bit of the same stuff that GA4 does with, sessions. And overall, all of these softwares that I'm going to give you, they just give you the customer behavior. They give you they show you what your customers are actually doing on your website. Think of Google Analytics, if you're familiar with that, as GA4 just shows you how many people are landing on your website, where Clarity you can think of as showing you what everyone's doing on your website. So you can go to recordings and 42 live users right now. This is obviously a demo, but look, we can literally watch what this person's doing right now. This is how powerful this is. So this guy went up, he clicked sign up or whatever it was, and then signed up and went to the Google page to, do his thing. And now it's just waiting for additional user activity. So you can literally watch and kind of spy, which sounds really fucking weird. I won't lie saying that out loud, but you can see, what people are actually doing, and it helps out so much. The other thing is the heat map. Okay, what are people actually clicking on? Are they just clicking on some random button that doesn't really do much, or are they actually going to your CTA buttons, the signups and logins and the live demo and the sign up button again? Are they clicking on other stuff stuff up at the home tab? What are they actually doing? You're actually seeing what people are doing. This is also, which I'll transition over to Hotjar, which is another one. This is also free. It's a little bit more technical in my opinion. They don't have any free demo that I can show you. But essentially, in my opinion, it's Clarity, but a little bit more in depth. And you can also set up stuff like this, where you can have the voice of your customer, where you can put different feedback applications or whatever it is at the corner of your page. So when people are on your page, they can review it, and you can actually hear, like it says here, the voice of your customer. see how they feel basically about your page. Is the feedback good? Is the feedback bad? So now with Humblytics, the last one that I want to show you, this is a little bit more variable testing. It's kind of like Clarity and Hotjar combined. This one does cost money. It's $20 a month. And I have yet to get fully hands-on with it. Clarity and Hotjar are what I use typically. But with Humblytics, I know they have A/B testing and a lot of like variable stuff. So you can actually get more nitty-gritty and get more hands-on essentially with your testing. So, you can test different subheadlines and headlines and see which worked more. You can also do that though and go high level if you use that as your CRM with the page creation. Really, I think Humblytics, if you don't like these two, they're both free. Try Humblytics if you don't like it. It's a 14-day trial. If you don't like it, then you stick with these two. These are what I always, go by and use for all of my clients. So yeah, that's pretty much these softwares, what quantitative data is, what qualitative data is. I gave you the reasons behind why you need to be using it, blah, blah, blah. I'm going to go over and kind of recap everything. I just want to explain once again how to use quantitative and qualitative data to the best of your ability. Because let's say you set up, Hotjar, Clarity, or Humblytics with your GA4, you may not know actually how to use it just from this brief video. All it is use your session recordings and use your heat maps and use as much data as you can on the qualitative side to pair and reason with your quantitative data. So what that means is, let's say one day you have a really good amount of opt-ins. Let's just say you went from 20 opt-ins to 40 opt-ins in a single day, you doubled it. You can go look at Clarity and see those session recordings and those heat maps and see, okay, what were people doing? Were they instantly going to the CTA? Did they actually read the subheadline or headline and take a little bit more time with the page, and that's what led them to opt in more? Or maybe you just had a really good CTA on your social media, so they clicked on the page and immediately went to the CTA on it. Using your qualitative data to the best of your ability is always going to give you more alignment and give you more of a narrative behind all of your what's, all of your numbers, what is actually working. Same thing with, let's say you have a call book funnel, a call funnel, and you get, 5 calls booked one day, which is a lot for you. You can go in and see, okay, did I have an influx of page views? And if I did, what caused that? Or maybe, once again, you had an influx of signups. Okay, what caused that once again? Was it, once again, something that I just promoted and the CTA was really good on their socials? Or maybe the page views this time, people started paying more attention, like I said, to the variables. And, maybe you changed up the copy and it did really well this time and it built up a lot of emotion. So people, signed up and immediately booked the call. Whatever it is. The point I'm trying to make is use it to not guess anymore. Use it to not have any, blind shots that might end up hurting you. Because you can make a new headline and you're like, shit, I think this is really going to work. And then your page views go down and your opt-ins go down. And, everything just decreases after that. So when you use something like qualitative data, it keeps that from happening because you're seeing how things are working now, and instead of building off of a blank slate, you're building off of patterns and what you've already seen to work. But that's really it. I'm going to wrap this video up here. If you do want to get in contact with me, my IG is below. I'm happy to help out with anything. Shoot me any questions, anything regarding your info product, and that's really it. Peace.